every time I have you on, I just want to get in the song, man. I just love that theme song on this day. But anyways, the Maple Leafs, like, dude, feeling so good about this team. You can tell today, man. How are you?
Yeah, great. I mean, I say it all the time, but this year truly feels like a different animal. Just the goaltending, the D, and Berube. I mean, I feel like those three things are what's adding up to this success. I hate to see Florida also finding success too, though. I was kind of hoping Tampa would take more pounds of flesh, which they may still, but man, friggin' Florida.
I hear you. Let's focus on this team right now. I mean, they're obviously in the driver's seat, but we talked to start the show, Adam, about like the difference between watching games the last year and the year before and before that, and what it's like now. There does seem to be this sense of confidence and this sense of calm that I haven't really felt following these guys. What do you think that difference is?
Again, I think it boils down to Berube and them buying into the system. And it honestly didn't take too long for it to gel, but they've had the entire season with this group. And instead of bringing in a bunch of people at the trade deadline, yeah, you picked up Carlo, who's been amazing, and Lawton, who's really starting to come into his own now in that fourth line. But I think because the majority of the team was already in play, I feel they just had more time to gel. And throughout the years where there was O'Reilly or guys like that, it didn't feel like they had long enough to truly gel as a team. And you could tell in the playoffs. But man, they had poise, especially you see in that first game when Ottawa came out flying. You could just feel the nervous energy, through the screen. And all the 6 penalties later, and you knew they were going to get smarter about it, and they were going to take less, nervous penalties, I guess. But Toronto, man, they look like a team who's been to the playoffs 9 years in a row.
Yeah, it's unique to say that, but it's very true. And Simone, Bobby, or Benoit wins it in OT. Where were you for that goal? What was your reaction? Obviously, very good times.
I was sitting in this chair
Sick.
for the goal last night, and I jumped up, and I'm sequestered down in the back room in the basement. Like they give me the back room so they can't hear me when overtime goals happen at close to 11 o'clock at night.
Well, it's sure a blast. And, I think that if you look at the way the teams were built in the past, not as heavy, not as deep, it's unreal that we're getting contributions from everybody so far in this short series. That's 3 games is all we're into it. But everyone's chipping in and whatnot, but the core 4 or the big 5 or whatever the hell, include Matthew Nyes in that. What are you seeing out of those guys? I mean, they're spreading it around a little bit. I don't think they're like exploding off the page doing incredible things, but you look at the numbers and it's like, my goodness, they are doing their job.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think it's dependent on them to do that now. And I think that's part of the success of this team is you have a guy like Simone Benoit as the hero from last night, but you have McCabe, you have Tanev eating pucks back there. You got Riley, who's turning into playoff Mo again. It feels like it's much more distributed throughout the team. And I don't think that's been the case before, and you can take a Robertson out and put a Pacioretty in for a different, they probably figured it was going to be a little more intense, a little more ugly, a little more greasy in Ottawa. And I think it was. So you have a guy like Pacioretty to be able to answer that. I just feel like those guys are doing their job because they understand it doesn't all fall on them now. So it just feels like a different pressure on them than usual. And I know they get paid for it and all of those things, but you kind of feel bad because it's like, okay, well, they're trying. They're clearly trying. It's just not happening. This year it feels like it's happening because it's depth. It's depth and it's the system. I said at the beginning of the season, they're going to be a less exciting team, but I think they'll be a more successful team. And I think they're built more for the playoffs than they've ever been, at least with this era of players. It just feels, like you said, heavier team, tougher team. Just the blocking of shots and the way they've all bought into that. The defensive system. I mean, the first shot in the third period, I mean, they score. So you wonder how much Stolarz was getting cold back there. That's kind of what it looked like because normally he has that safe, right? It almost looked like, oh crap, here they come. And he wasn't quite prepared. But back to Stolarz, I think he's, as of right now, the biggest difference in the feel of the team. I love the way he's chirping back there, talking to his guys. I love that he leveled Greg. I was gonna say, man, that was a sweet shoulder tackle. He's got another career if he ever wants it.
Hey, what are the chances we see Stoli in AEW sometime soon?
I mean, he's got the size. I could use a tag team partner.
All your friends are turning on you, dude. I don't know what's going on these days.
I've become like the new Hulk Hogan in terms of like just everybody turns on me.
It's crazy. I want to get your reaction as well. You talk about Stoli. I think we're almost at a point where you got to make Anthony Stolarz his own championship belt. But to me, that's been the biggest story of this 3 games so far in the Battle of Ontario, just solidifying the crease. And people think this is like an 11-game sample size. It's not. Even dating back to the preseason where Stoli, I think, stood on his head for a preseason game. What a marvelous, marvelous addition by the Maple Leafs last summer, because this guy's been incredible, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was that game in New Jersey where I went, whoa. All right, this dude is dialed in. And again, I just love the fact that it's a very un-Toronto, at least pre this season thing. Like, you wouldn't see a Maple Leaf goalie do that before. Just start rifling a dude in the back of the head. Like, you just didn't see it. And I love it. Don't come in my crease, man. You come in the blue paint, you're going to get your head knocked off. And I think that filters to the rest of the team too. So it becomes this team-wide thing because they're much more physical. They really are. And, even guys like Willie who don't necessarily need to be, you do get a sense of how strong that dude is when somebody, unless Kachuk's dogpiling him from behind with a bulldog.
The hell was that?
No call, by the way.
None. 0. What'd you think of the reffing last night, man? I was there in person, and I'm like, what are we doing here? I think it was a ref show, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you hate when I think like Jay was saying before I came on, just the consistency, right? If you can get the consistency across the board, then you know what you're walking into. But if you're having to adjust that every game or adjust that in the first 10 minutes, and now you're giving up, power plays, and that can change the entire course of the game, right? So you just like to see a little more consistency and like, okay, what is a trip? What isn't a trip? What is boarding? What isn't boarding? Because it's kind of hard to tell right now. Like, Nyes eats about 4 cross checks in the back from Chabot, and then gives 2 to, I even forget who it was, but then he gets called. And like Matthews is like getting pushed going, really?
It is tough to watch at times, but
it is. But they're rolling with it, and they're not letting anything get in the way. They're not getting bogged down. Again, I think that goes back to Berube. That dude isn't built with excuses. Just that excuse is a word that does not exist in his world, and I think the entire team's picked up on that. Where it's just like, no, put your head down, get to business.
Mm-hmm. And as an athlete with you, Cope, you've had moments where they're bigger than others and tens of thousands of people, television, and you want to perform. What would be your advice to this team as they get ready for an elimination game? And if they get deeper and as the games and the moments get bigger, would you have any advice for them as things start to become more intense and important?
I guess the only similarities are that adrenaline, because with, there's no way I'm going to be able to tell a pro hockey player how to adjust to what they got to do. Right. The only thing I always make sure to just breathe. Because if you breathe, it just calms everything, and that's really the only thing I think about it, and just go out loose. Like if I have a big show, I come into it excited, not trepidatious. I'm like, okay, let's knock the doors off this thing.
Yeah, it's very Uncore like, and again, this story's been different this season, but you seem to rise to the occasion in big matches, all the manias, all the big events you seem to rise up, and that's what we're looking for from this Maple Leafs team moving forward. The last couple of weeks have been so nostalgic for us, like even from a guest department, we had Alan McCauley on, and Jonas Hoagland and Eddie Belfour. Funny enough, Belfour talks about how he would have blockered somebody in the face if they did that to him. The next game, Stoli comes out and does that with Ridley Gregg, so you love to see that. But just your perspective here on the Battle of Ontario, like Corey Cross is coming up too. The Benoit goal reminded me of Corey Cross in 01 Game 3 scoring the OT winner, eh?
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Again, just a different team this season, and and watching it throughout the season, just feeling the difference. It really does feel like some of the really successful teams from the past, kind of feels like the Gilmore Clark, years, just in terms of the kind of team that they have. I think picking up Tanev was massive. McCabe, having him as his D partner, I think has been massive. He can play on the proper side. Just there's so many things that those two do. And then you got Carlo, who is quietly, very, very quietly, just, which is what you want from D, done his job. And it feels like Morgan finally has that guy. And they gel, and they, like, even when they got the overtime winner the other night, and like Riley's jumping down the bench to Carlo, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. That's good. When you see little things like that, that means those two are connected, and that's what you want out of your D pairs, right?
And you talk also, about Berube, and I think hats off to him. Absolutely, it's changed the DNA of this team. But I think what gets lost sometimes is tree living. Like you mentioned, the back end, you got Tanev, OEL, McCabe, and Carlo at about $16 million or something.
Yeah.
Like to reinvent this team and to get big time players and pieces in, and then make up for that in other ways with the cap. Just I can't believe that there's some people who still poo-poo that, man. He has built this team and given it to Craig Berube. And when you sometimes step back and look at it, I can't believe how much better suited for the playoffs it is.
Yeah. And again, back to that decor, right? And what True Living's done, let alone picking up a guy like Lorentz.
Mm-hmm.
Like another guy who kind of flies under the radar, but what has he got, 4 or 5 game winners this season? Like, that's a guy who steps up at the time when you need him, and always has a smile on his face, and just the pickups that they made, especially grabbing 3 from the defending champions, and they go in the division. That's how they pulled that off. It's in Florida getting Marchand. I'm just like, how does that? Yeah, man, it just feels like they're a bigger, tougher, gnarlier team that don't seem to really sweat much. Like, I know there was a lot of conjecture and talk, like, well, 5-on-5, like if you watch Hockey Night in Canada after the first game, it was just like, well, 5-on-5 they were better. It was 6-2. I don't think they were better. I think Toronto doesn't care if you play in their O zone or in their D zone. I really don't. It doesn't seem to affect them. They're calm, and they know that they'll get it out. They know they're going to block a shot. They're going to stifle it. They're going to blanket it, and then pitch one out, like Marner on that breakaway from Matthews. I mean, not only that, but you have those two, Marner and Matthews in particular, playing the defensive games that they play. And again, people talk about it, but their defensive play is really, really underrated. Just like I feel like Tavares's play, just in keeping separation from the opposition and the puck, is underrated. There's so many good things to like on this team right now.
Very dialed in, and tough times certainly for the calculator community with the Maple Leafs up 3-0 in this series. I know you're coming off the heels again. Your ass whooped by your buddies a couple weeks back, so I hope you're feeling better about that in AEW. But what are the chances we see you have more games? I just love that it seems to time up perfectly with the Maple Leafs Stanley Cup playoffs. Is coincidental or what?
It wasn't by design, I swear. It really, really wasn't. But yeah, man, it was just so fun. I got a call from my manager, and he said the Leafs reached out and they want you to come out and do a hype video. I was like,
sick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we went up. I got to stand on center ice, which, as a kid from Orangeville, stand on center ice on the Leaf, just so cool, and to be any like small, little tiny part of what they do. And it's just super fun to be involved.
It's awesome. It was great to see. And lastly, just wanted to touch on your time with Stephen Brunt at your home where you are right now. We released a video last week, man. That man cave looks electric, dude.
It's getting there. My wife tells me I should just take the whole basement. So she's little by little, she's giving me more and more. So I might get the whole basement, and then it's going to be ridiculous.
Freaking
awesome,
I'm
I'm jealous of some pieces. That Potvin mask, oh boy, the 10-year-old version of me would want that bad. Right, the 40-year-old version wants it bad.
Gopi, this has been so much fun. Let's reconnect soon. Let's go series by series here, bud. Thank you so much for your time. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right. See you guys.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.